All right, everyone, last one. Okay, then we're going to start reviewing. We're going to look at this and have a test as a unit test, 19, 20, and 21. So keep that in mind. USA Test Prep, I know everyone signed up. Almost everyone. We'll figure that out. Okay, so there are objectives, our example. Good, I had some class participation in the CAT. Okay, so Germany and solar, latitude, Germany over here, what do we have? I mean, that's way the heck above Florida, and they're switching to solar. 6% of its electricity, back in 2018, it uses a feed-in tariff system, meaning that utilities have to buy electricity from anyone on the grid who can produce it from renewable sources. So you install it on your roof, and the electric company buys it from you to contribute to them producing overall power. Because like we have sun here in Florida, that's not a good plan, right? Come on. All right, so here's how much they've increased with it. Graph, 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 okay? Please go back and review that you can figure out these three-sided graphs. The Renewable Energy Source Act of 2000 assigned a payment rate according to market considerations for every renewable energy source. It's gradually lowering its tariffs as they get more and more renewable energy sources. They're getting such an influx that they get to lower the tariffs until a goal of about 52 gigawatts of capacity is reached. I don't know what that means in size-wise because giga hurts my head a little bit. So since 1990, carbon dioxide emissions from Germany energy sources, have fallen 25%. And look at the 7 other major pollutants, which you need to know, okay? So now we know that there are no multiple choice. It's going to be all FRQ. So know at least one, okay? Pick at least one that you can tie it to other things. Methane, dinitrogen oxide or the nitrogen oxides, sulfur dioxide, here's the generalized one, carbon monoxide, okay? VOCs, volatile organic compounds, and dust. It's still working on the transition. It has shut down 7 of its 15 nuclear power plants in response to Fukushima's meltdown. So when they saw that happen, they were like, pfft. At first they were taking down coal plants, and then they were like, nope, gonna take down the nuclear plants. So good, bad, or indifferent, that is what they're doing. So, oh look, see, it increased the rate of coal combustion. Their system of tariffs and government subsidies of renewable energy technology has served as a model for more than 70 other countries. I'm gonna go with not ours. I'm just making the big guess. Okay, so new renewable. And it's very funny, okay, because it's not new. Solar's been around forever. If you think of wind has been around forever, think of what we think of as Holland and like the big huge windmills going around, or up in the Northeast where how they processed grain through a water wheel. These things have been around for a long time. So that's why they got like this, okay? Conventional alternatives to fossil fuels such as hydropower, biomass. I mean, you know, how long has it been since the people on the Mongolian steppe have been burning yak poop? For as long as people have been on the Mongolian steppe, and I'm guessing they've been there quite some time. So these are renewable, but they can be depleted with overuse and they exert some undesirable environmental impacts. Here's where we go. Energy from the sun, wind, geothermal, and ocean water are newer renewables because just beginning to be used on a wide scale. So we're really developing technology that's making it cost effective. They're harnessing using technologies still in a rapid phase. They will likely play a much larger role in the future. So here we have U.S. consumption, U.S. electricity generation from renewable sources. How that works, once again, you can go through and start comparing. Although they currently make up a small portion of our energy budget, do you need to know how much? We know we don't. Do you need to be able to read? Yes, and then put that into words. Good news, FRQs, for those of you who all know stuff in your head but think that it was your handwriting, now it's going to be typed in. The new renewable energy sources are growing quickly. okay? So we have different types of solar power. Wind has expanded by nearly 50% each year since the 70s. Solar has started to grow. We've got wind, I mean, they're all ultimately solar power because we're taking either what we call solar power, which is just directly sun's rays and converting them, or you have wind, and wind is generated because of uneven heating of the Earth's atmosphere, which actually causes wind. Look, the sun does two things. Oh, and, you know, tides, things like that. We've got those involved too, but, you know. So, PV solar, concentrated solar power, that's where you see like mirrors going and they go to one source, and this is photovoltaic. I know, you're like, oh my goodness, PV, please tell me what that acronym means. So solar water heating, this was around how Florida started out. I know, did you know? I told this story before, but you know, majority of you weren't listening. Back in the day, back in the 50s and the 40s, everyone had how they heated their water was by solar on the roof. You see it now, it's like a black panel. Guess what happened? FP&L came around in the 50s and said, we shall give you a brand spanking new electric hot water heater for free. And they installed it, but then guess what? Now you have to pay to have your water heater, when before, guess who did it for free? The sun's good like that. Oh, we can hear my husband screaming in the background, sorry. So here are other ones, geothermal, depending on where we are. Iceland, built all on that. So, renewable compared to non-renewable in the life cycle of greenhouse gas emissions. The use of new renewable provides many benefits. What are some of the benefits? We know we're not releasing crap into the air, okay? So reduction in air pollution, reduction in greenhouse gases that drive global climate change. This is overall in their use. We're not saying in building the facility, or in building a solar panel, or in building a windmill, or a wind turbine, that we're not using greenhouse gases to do that now in mass production. Some plants yes, some plants not. So you go out to the gigafactory out in wherever that is that Tesla did, and that's all solar. So they're building their solar panels and they're building their batteries by using solar. So they've got it done. There, we're creating jobs. Everyone's all upset, our president, I'm bringing coal back. Well, why don't we just start new jobs? Green collar jobs. Instead of blue collar. Look, we're just different colors. So shifting renewable energy creates new employment opportunities in the design, installation, and maintenance of the changing energy infrastructure. Looks like the same thing. Oh, look. Okay, so that's where the average is, where they're going with those. So although prices are falling, most renewable energy remains more expensive than fossil fuel energy, especially now when fossil fuel hit the tank while we're sitting here all, you know, we're self-isolating or whatever it's called. So market prices will continue to fall for renewable energy as more governments, corporations, utilities, and consumers promote and use it. Promote it, use it, you want it, okay? Policies that support renewable energy may include feed-in tariffs, such as those in Germany. Goals or mandates set by the governments that a minimum percentage of power comes from renewable. Government invested in research and development. We're not doing, we're not doing, our government isn't doing that. Lending programs to renewable energy startup businesses. Tax credits. We've had tax credits for quite some time that they're all going out for like solar, for like geothermal, things like that. The federal government has had tax credits for the past, I think, 10 or 15 years, but they're all like ending in 2021. And we know our federal government now is not upping them. I guess it just depends on who everyone votes for in this election. Those of you that are going to be 18 and have peeps that you know that are going to be 18, vote, please. I'm just saying. So tax credits and rebates to individuals and businesses who produce or buy renewable energy. So it'd be like you were going to put solar on your roof and it costs a crap load of money, like let's say $30,000. You're like, what? But if you get tax credit back for it, then it costs less. And it's really the upfront cost, because over time it pays for itself. In many cases, governments have subsidized fossil fuels. I know, because those companies need to make more money. Nuclear power far more than they are now subsidizing renewable energy. Yes, I get that. A recent report on energy subsidies reveals 3 findings. Oil and gas have received 75 times more subsidies, and nuclear power 31 more than renewable energy resources. Why? Why does oil and gas keep getting subsidies? Why? Can someone ask that? Google that while you're sitting there. I mean, while you're waiting for me to turn the next slide, could someone Google it, the why question? Post that somewhere so we can always read it. Okay? So per year, oil and gas have received 13 times more subsidies, and nuclear power has received more than 9 times more support than renewable energy. Don't need to know the numbers. Just need to know that it's a crap load more than our new renewables. Only in one single year have solar, wind, and geothermal combined ever received as much support as the lowest amount ever offered to oil, gas, or nuclear power. And they're not showing us? Or am I just not reading that right? Per year subsidies. Okay. So, our review questions. You go through, read those at your leisure. You can pause, push pause. You know where that thing is. 2 little lines. Okay. So, solar. I'm a fan. You should be a fan. They even start talking about it now with this whole thing going on with microgrids and stuff like that. Brilliant. Solar energy is the energy from the sun. No. The Earth receives enough solar energy each day to power human consumption for 25 years. So every day, of course, 75% of our planet is covered by ocean. So, I mean, we should probably knock some of that out. Do that math. All right. So even if it's, sorry for the earthquake, now I have 2 cats watching my cell phone watch me. So finding cost-effective ways to efficiently collect and converting its energy has been a major challenge. So here we have some examples of what you can do with a house. Okay? Passive solar energy. You need to know the difference between passive and active solar energy. Passive solar energy collection involves designing buildings, maximizing absorption of sunlight in winter while keeping interiors cool in the heat of the summer. Planting vegetation can provide a temperature buffer. Thermal mass material absorbs, store, and release heat slowly and use it to build the roof, walls, and floors. So if we were in someplace cold, I know, imagine it, you would want to have a dark roof. You would want to have dark walls. You might want to have if we're up here in the United States, let's go with our example, you might want to have big windows facing the south, so in the winter, the sun comes in and maybe you have a dark concrete floor or a dark some type of floor, so that gets heated up and then that energy radiates back. If we're in Florida, we don't want that. You don't want big west-facing windows, which is why we usually have lanais or we have patio coverings or something like that. You want your houses to be light colored. You don't want dark Mediterranean red roofs because that collects energy and stores heat. So you want your roof colors to be light. Same thing with like a light colored car. I know everyone wants a black car, but then when you sit down and you burn your butt when you sit in the car, your car is 150 degrees, has to do a lot with the color of your car. The color of the inside, just saying. Okay? So here, active solar energy collections makes use of devices to focus, move, or store solar energy. Here we have flat plate collectors, are dark colored, heat absorbing metal plates mounted in a flat glass covered box that absorbs solar heat from the roof and transferred it to the hot water tanks. So this is just basically, you know, if you've ever played outside in the sun and you're like, oh, it's Florida, let me get out the hose. And at first the water is freaking hot. Why is it hot? Because that green hose has been sitting in the sunlight all day and it absorbed heat. Now if you had a whole bunch of that on your roof and then you turned on your tap, it would be hot for free. Same concept. Adding a little to it. Okay? So this is concentrated solar power. It's where they bring it all into one spot. So intensifies solar energy by gathering from a wide area and focusing it. Solar cookers are portable ovens that use reflectors to focus sunlight and cook food. It's an example. Okay? Here are different types. Parabolic trough approaches use curved mirrors to focus sunlight into synthetic oil in pipes, which is then used to heat water into a steam, which then drives what? Turbines. You know how to generate electricity from every type of electrical plant. Something does something, turns a turbine, generates electricity. Do not get that wrong. Do not get that wrong. Turbines. Generating electricity. There we go. Okay, this is a facility in Spain. Okay, so power tower facilities receive sunlight concentrated by mirrors and transfer that heat to steam-driven generators. So a lot of these actually move and follow the sun, and they point it, you can see they're pointing it up to something in there, which is absorbing all of that energy at once. Okay, and then taking it somewhere where it's, guess what it's going to do? It's going to heat some type of liquid, which is going to then cause the turbine to move, and it's going to generate electricity. So photovoltaic cells convert sunlight directly to electrical energy through the transfer of electrons across silicon plates. So there are many different types, and obviously those arrays, this is how FP&L has huge arrays. You can like drive up the turnpike and see them on the side. Okay, thin film solar cells are a variation of photovoltaic. They're compressed into ultra-thin sheets that are less efficient but can be produced and stored more cheaply. They must either be able to store their excess energy or sell their power to the local utility. So a lot of these you've seen, they're like panels that are almost like peel and stick, and they're bendy and stuff like that. So it's interesting because sometimes people need to be able to self-install. Some areas use net metering, in which the value of the power the consumer provides is subtracted from the consumer's monthly utility bill. So I know they do that in California. I don't know how they do it here because I haven't researched it because there hasn't been a need yet, but I know you can do that. So say, for example, in the winter where it's really sunny here, you're not using a lot of electricity because you're not running your air conditioner as much. So you're generating a lot, so your meter is actually going backwards as you're feeding into the grid. And then in the summer when you need to use it, then your meter goes forward. So that's net metering. Okay? It has advantages. Every day the sun shines. It's inexhaustible for human use. Enough solar energy reaches the earth to power our civilization. No fuel is needed. No moving parts. No maintenance for that. Many new green jobs are created. No greenhouse gases. So there's a lot of things if they wanted you to talk about how come solar is the way to go. There's even a pretty car out in the Dharma. There's a car out there that has solar on the roof. Cool. Mind you, it's like 300,000, but you know, guys are going to get jobs. It'll be fine in a couple of years. All right. So here, solar radiation is good. Not all regions are equally sunny. That's true, but look at Germany. Look at this. Look at this. Look, no good. But Germany has a crap load of solar energy. So it must still be worth doing it. We're better than Germany. Look at, even up in the, is that a Dakota? That's a Dakota, right? That's a Dakota. Look at that. Even up in the Dakotas there. They can still use solar, let alone all of here, you know, that big desert we have. Okay, obviously Hawaii is the way to go. And look at Florida. I mean, that's a lot. It's an intermittent resource, meaning daily or seasonal variations in sunlight prevent the ability to provide a consistent energy supply without storage capacity. Go look at Tesla batteries. I mean, there are LG batteries. Everyone's coming out with a battery, but they have just a better website. So you can go and see, and you can store that energy for use at night. It also has a high upfront cost, purchasing and installing the equipment. Current installation do pay for themselves within 10 to 20 years of use, which is why so far people haven't jumped on the bandwagon, because if you've been in here in South Florida, most people stay in their house for like 3-4 minutes and then they flip it and sell it and move on. But if you plan on your house being a home and you're going to live there for a length of time, yeah, that pays for itself. If all you're looking, you economics folks, if that's all you're looking for. So due to lack of government investment in the past, solar energy contributes just that amount to the U.S. energy supply. It's changing as this technology is growing. So in other words, solar panels are becoming more and more efficient. They were like at 12%, then they were at 13%, and soon, hopefully, by the time they get up to, I don't know, in another 5 years from now, hopefully like 30% conversion rates. I actually talked to one solar company, and they said they were close to 30%, but obviously, the more efficient they are, the more expensive they are. China is currently the world's leader in solar technology. So China is converting to solar. So we can't keep going, China's polluting. Well, yeah, but they're doing stuff. And what are they doing? They're subsidizing so much as driving U.S. manufacturers out of business. Well, they've been on pause for a while at this point. Review questions. Have a good time. Okay, solar, solar, solar. Wind. It's been around for a while. Look at old pictures of Holland with those windmills. So wind powered is generated from the movement of air caused by differential heating air masses. So still ultimately the energy is coming from the sun. Wind turbines convert the mechanical energy of wind into electrical energy. Look at what it does. Turns a turbine, generates electricity. Okay? So wind turns the blades of a rotor which rotates machinery inside of a nacelle. Nacelle? There is no pronunciation of it. But I know these things are freaking huge, some of them. Or if you have like wind farms, they do in Japan, they have huge wind farms. Or they can go on a small scale. You can go down the intercoastal and see little wind turbines on top of people's sailboats. So they go from small to farm. Engineers design turbines to yaw or rotate back and forth in response to changes in wind direction. So they do like this, okay? Ensuring that the motor faces the wind at all times. Wind speed highly influences electric generation. Doubling of wind velocity increases power output by 8 times. That's a nice math thing going on there. They're often erected in groups, and this is called a wind farm. So look at how much China has, the United States. I mean, because we have a lot of those flat plain areas. Like, where the buffalo roam, we're on plains, which is flat. Like, I hear Oklahoma and Kansas are like flat. Parts of Texas, flat. When there's that much flatness, there's wind. The capacity is doubling every 3 years. China, the US, and Germany have the greatest rates of production. Okay, when ranked by what proportion of their electricity comes from wind, smaller countries like Denmark, Ireland, and Portugal lead the way because they have smaller electric consumption. So there we have offshore ones. They have a lot of this in Japan. I know the Sea of Japan has a bunch of them there. You obviously can't have like huge wave action. Offshore sites can be ideal for wind farms because the wind speed is greater and the air is less turbulent. Costs are higher, but the payback is faster. Okay? So what is wind power? Why do we go for it? Number one, it's windy. Okay? 1 megawatt wind turbine prevents the release of even mercury. Okay? They produce 20 times more energy than they consume. Don't forget this. The energy ratio value is better than most other energy sources. It can also be easily scaled up by adding more turbines to an area of land. So, wind power has limitations. Like, we don't get a crop load of wind here in Florida. Okay? It feels like it sometimes, but not a lot. But look at this. That's a lot of wind. Texas. Well, what does Texas also have there? Okay? Oil. Just big oil people. So, like solar energy, wind is intermittent. The geography of the landscape determines how much wind. Okay? Mountainous areas and the Great Plains. Don't we have mountains here? Aren't there like Appalachian or something? Why can't it be on top of that? I don't know. Unless we have to cut down trees, then no, I'm against it. So most of the U.S. population lives along the coast, however, so continent-wide transmission of networks would be needed. No, let's make microgrids. When wind farms are proposed near population centers, residents often oppose them. Once again, the not in my backyard thing. I don't want trash in my backyard. I don't want an electrical plant. I don't want transmission lines. But I want everything, but I don't want any of the byproduct. Okay? Wind turbines also pose a threat to birds and bats, which are killed if they fly into the rotating blades. I've seen a lot of new studies on new wind turbines that actually turn on and off. They have like a type of radar, and they can tell when, like, say, for example, migrating birds are coming towards it, and it turns off. I've seen technology with that. So then we have geothermal. Yellowstone, I'm just saying, we got areas of geothermal we could do stuff with. Thermal energy that arises from beneath the Earth's surface. It manifests itself at the surface in these ways only in certain areas. So we can harness it the same way. Look at what? Look. Don't get that wrong. Wells can be drilled towards heated groundwater if we need to. It depends on the area. Sometimes it bubbles up, depends on where we are, which can then be used to provide direct heating of buildings. Geothermal power plants use heated underground water and steam to generate electricity. Turns a turbine. Creates electricity. Yeah. Okay. Iceland, you know, that's what they do. And you can watch some cooking shows. I know you don't, but you could. They have cooking shows where they like show how they cook stuff in pots underneath the ground. They just dig a couple of feet, put the pot in, the ground so hot, come back out. I mean, now you're not even paying for your cooking. What a deal. In-ground hot tubs. Okay. So heat pumps make the use of temperature different. Soil absorbs and releases heat more slowly than air. So several inches below the surface temperatures are nearly constant year-round. Ground source heat pumps. We can do that with air conditioning in Florida. How do you know? I'm going to do it on the house. Just saying, we already looked into it. Take advantage of this by transferring heat from the ground into buildings during the winter and back into the ground during the summer. So if you dig 6 feet down in Florida, it's 72 degrees all the time. Okay? So now if you run pipes down in there, there's an exchange of heat from the hot in your house into the ground. And then the air then the ground takes and exchanges it and makes, say, the water in, say, some PVC piping. I don't know what the piping's making out of. I'm making stuff up. It comes back up and gets blown throughout your house, just like your air handler already does with your air conditioning. But it blows it at, what, a constant 72 degrees. I don't know about you, but I never turn my air conditioning down lower than 72 degrees. Maybe you do. I don't know, but most people do not. So that maintains 72 degrees without having to have a chiller. It's just taking it, exchanging the heat underneath the ground, bringing back up the cool, and blowing over it. Less moving parts, less breakdown, less cost over time. Once again, all of these new renewables have greater upfront costs. Look, and there's a picture instead of me doing this, showing you pump, okay? So here it is in the summer, here it is in the winter, same concept. Ground source heat pumps are high energy efficient as heat is being moved from place to place instead of being produced from outside inputs. You can also couple it with your hot water heater. I know they do that. So you take the hot air from your house, it heats your hot water, dumps off some heat there, then you bring it around. Look at that. You're just saving right and left right there. Geothermally heated water can release dissolved gases including carbon dioxide, methane, ammonia, hydrogen sulfide, but at far smaller levels than fossil fuel. It's renewable, but can be depleted if plants use heated water faster than it can be recharged. But we have, you know, that magma stuff our crusts are floating on top of. So always below the crust, it's always hot, melting rock. So the Earth's crust shifts naturally over time, so areas that produce hot groundwater may not always do so. You can only do with what you got. So then we have enhanced geothermal systems. Pump cold water into dry underground rock, allow it to be heated, then draw it back up to generate power. It can be done over and over. It has been found to trigger minor earthquakes. I know whenever we do stuff and we put it into the crust and jiggle stuff around, so I'm not for it. Okay, you can, if you like earthquakes, maybe you are for it. You could be a friend of fracking. I can't tell you what to do. So, not a drawback to wind. Okay, home, heat pump. And then ocean energy. We have an ocean. It covers 3/4 of this planet. I know, there's a lot of it out there. Similar to how dams generate hydroelectric power, wave energy from the motion of the ocean, waves, can be used to generate electricity. Here we have a snake-like energy converter, which floats up and down like this. Okay. Look, there's that darn turbine again. It's greatest in the open ocean, but transmitting the electricity to shore is expensive because you generate it there, you got to bring it here. So coastal facilities are the main way to go. Funneling waves from large areas into narrow channels and elevated reservoirs from which water flows out through the turbines. using rising and falling waves to push air in and out of chambers, which spins a turbine. Uploading our half hour, because that's all we get.